Are you tired of feeling overwhelmed and isolated about what you should be doing financially? If staying in the same position has you missing out on the most important things, like eating breakfast with your kids, you're not going to want to miss our upcoming Inner Circle Live event.
Russ, when people come to our event, they're going to pick up their very first domino. Let me explain what I mean. They're going to figure out who they are as an investor. They're going to gain access to 6 different passive income opportunities and the experts bringing it to them. And they're going to be able to put it on autopilot.
Right now, go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/live and don't forget the discount code PICAST. Welcome into the Financial Freedom Roundtable, where each week we break down complex financial topics so that you can more easily understand them and, more importantly, take action on your path to becoming financially free. If it's your first time joining us, welcome. Grateful to have you in the room. I'm Russ Morgan. They call me the idea guy. Must because lack of follow through guy just didn't sound so cool to me. But enough about me for a moment. Let me introduce you to my co-host, my partner. He's Italian Stallion. He's got the license plate cover to prove it. Mr. Joey Murray. Stallion, good afternoon.
My brother, so glad to be with you.
Dude, we got to give someone today a financial freedom starter guide. They are looking to get on the financial freedom bandwagon and they don't know what to do yet. And they're coming to this podcast to listen. Why is that so important for us to cover?
Dude, at the end of the day, anything that you want to be an expert in, anything that is legitimately important to you. Now, I'm saying that with a very specific verbiage. If it's not important to you, this doesn't matter. But if it is, getting a guide makes all the difference in the world. Okay? Having somebody to guide you down that path, having something to follow, someone who's been there, done that, and can lay out the steps, that is super important. I actually went back to some scripture on this, and I thought about, at the end of the day, the Bible is really ultimately a guide. So why don't I start with biblical wisdom, right? And Isaiah says, "And I will lead the blind in a way that they do not know. In paths that they have not known, I will guide them. I will turn the darkness before them into light, the rough places into level ground. These are the things I do, and I do not forsake them." At the end of the day, we are turning darkness into light, and we are taking the rough places and making them into level ground. I'm not in any way claiming to be God, but I'm saying when it comes to financial freedom, you got to have a guide that makes those things so much simpler.
I agree 100% with that you're not God. Let's go. Let's get some help. Let's get some extra people in the room, because thankfully you and I are not here alone. We do have the dream team of financial coaches. To my left, I got Mr. Incredible. His superpower is speed to financial freedom, and the real beauty of that speed is it's contagious. My man, Mr. JD Hill. Say hello to your fans, JD.
Hey, fans. Hey, everybody's waving today. I like that.
JD, why is this important for us to talk about today?
As somebody who is a perfectionist, right? I'm a person that is ready. Get ready again. Oh, I felt the wind. I need to readjust again. Get ready. Oh, I think there may be some new information out there, so now I need to research it again, right? Like, as somebody that needs everything to be in perfect place before I feel confident to make a decision, what I've realized is that the secret to getting ahead is getting started. And I think so much of what we're going to talk about today is all of those pieces that it takes in order to get started, because I can't tell you how many calls that I've had with people who want to theorize everything, myself included, right? And that they're really, really smart people, and ultimately they never end up achieving the things that they want to achieve because they never get going. And so achieving financial freedom doesn't have to be hard. You only need to get started to start seeing results.
You don't have to, what's the old saying? You don't have to be great to start. You just have to start to be great.
That's right. Less brown.
There you go. All right. Let's get around. We got a doctor in the house. He's a DFM. If you don't know what that means, that's a doctor of financial medicine. And yes, he can resuscitate your financial situation. Mr. Automated Budget himself, Eric Hudson. Great to have you on, Eric.
Oh man, Russ, thank you so much. Excited to be here. Excited about this topic.
Tell me, why do you think us talking about having a financial freedom starter guide is so important?
Russ, I follow a guy on Facebook that is pretty powerful in his approach. He takes all of these TikTok self-help gurus that are always quoting that this causes cancer or this is bad for you. And he actually boils it down and says, let's see what the data says. I actually have the training and the background to decipher what is really nutritious and what isn't, and what is bunk and what is not. And so, unfortunately, what is going on in our society today with social media is there's so much noise, Russ. There is so much noise that it seems so hard to ferret out the truth, not just in health, not just in finance, but with our country's future and who should we listen to? Well, I think it's important to not be swayed by the noise, but to follow those who walk the path and who lead with experience. And I think that's why here at Wealth Without Wall Street, I think it's amazing the team that you and Joey have put together. You haven't gone out and just hired people that can, create an IBC system. You've purposely brought on people who are walking the path. And I think that really helps people get rid of the noise by following an expert that's walking the path.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And here's the important part of having a guide is that you have to know what to do and where to start. And it's hard if you haven't played the game before, right? What's the first thing you do? You get out the rules and you can look at them and you can go back to them to see how are you doing, right? Because some people will start making up rules along the way and you'll be like, wait a second. No, that's not true. And they're like, yeah, it is. We've always played it that way. Well, let's look and see what the rules say, right? Like, I think having a guide helps give you some rules, give you a place to start, and then you can start playing the game. Well, if you're interested in figuring out what you need, what's your starter kit? What is the equipment or tools you need to have in your tool bag in order to get this going? We're going to cover that today. If you also need to know what are the tactics that people are doing as they actually start taking action to become financially free, we're going to share that today. And lastly, we got to give you some accelerators. We got to talk about some of the ways that you can get there faster and what to do and what not to do around that. So let's jump in, gentlemen, right now.
Welcome to the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast, your guide to understanding how to get out of the Wall Street rat race and start your own mailbox money lifestyle. Now, don't let these handsome Southern draws fool you. These financial minds are teaching our country to enhance savings, increase cash flow, and create passive income, all without the help of Wall Street. Are you ready to break through? Now here are your hosts, Russ Morgan and Joey Murray.
All right, let's get into this thing, guys. I want to talk a little bit about the starter kit. What sort of things do I need to do? I show up at your house, Eric. I'm like, I want to get started. I know that you've been going down this path. You talked about you need to be following someone who's doing. I've watched you do. I've listened to you. I want to get the equipment needed. What's the first thing that you're going to tell me to do?
Yeah, Russ, I'm at the age now where I'm repeating myself. And what happens when you get to my age is not only do you repeat yourself, but each time you do it, you think you're actually saying it for the first time. That's the bad thing about it. And so I think, the best analogy I can give you is the power of a GPS is not that it knows where Nashville, Tennessee is. The power of the GPS is it knows where you're sitting right now today. That's how it knows to tell you to turn right in 100 yards. Because it knows where you are today. So I think for you financially, if you're wanting to get somewhere, there's power in knowing where am I right now. I think automated budget, if I have to bring it up, is one of those things that helps you do that. What do my finances look like today so that I know how much capital I have to chase after that dream that I have? I think that's critically important.
Have you seen somebody use this thing and have success? If so, tell me just a snippet about that.
Russ, I've sold tens of thousands of automated budget books. And so I have a chiropractor friend in Texas. Finances was total disaster. And here's the thing that's amazing. Making a lot of money, but the finances were a total disaster. They were getting nowhere, spinning their wheels, not improving, not headed towards their goals. not improving their lifestyle, not setting things up for their children, for their future, not creating a new family tree, basically, because they just didn't have their arms around their finances and knew they couldn't do a budget every month because that's just not their personality. It's not in their DNA. So they needed an easy, simple tool to get their finances in order so they could automatically put money toward their goals and their vision. And so, yes, I could name hundreds of those kinds of examples of people who've done that.
But by the way, if you have not already taken the automated budget course, it is fantastic. And yes, Eric has created an amazing course within our community. If you're not already in the community, go to what'swhatwallstreet.com/community. You can join for free. And then you can go to the courses and you can purchase the automated budget course, which is fantastic and can do a lot of what you're talking about. I love that. How about you, JD? I'm showing up at your house. I need to know what tool needs to be in my tool belt in order to become financially free. What are you telling me?
IBC 101.
Tell me more. Why is that important?
Well, I think one, it's creating an unfair advantage for your investing and your journey to financial freedom. Because here's the reality: you have said so many times, Russ, and while I agree, in part, I may not agree totally. But one of the things that you need in order to be able to do a deal is you need access to cash, right? And IBC is the tool that gives you access to cash. But not only does it give you access to cash, it also helps you to organize your cash flow and enhance your investing. So it does so many things inside of your personal economy that a normal traditional checking account doesn't do. And I'll give you an example. My personal ability to be able to invest in real estate has grown and accelerated so much since implementing IBC. Because I don't have lazy cash sitting in the bank, right? Because if you're anything like me, you have money sitting in the bank, and sometimes it's easy to use that money for some other endeavor, some other venture, but in your mind, you may have had it kind of compartmentalized for something else, right? It's easy to commingle those dollars into something else, right? And so my wife is really good at seeing available dollars and going to Amazon, right online. It's amazing. Right. And I'm like, we got to be able to invest. And so by taking those dollars and getting it out of the checking account, out of my lazy cash system and putting it into IBC, it's given us the ability to invest in ways that we never would have been able to invest before. And so there's a velocity of money that's happening now every time that I invest.
Well, I love that. I'm hoping she's not listening to you. You're going to get hit with a shoe pretty soon.
Well, I'm upstairs. So yeah, you got to throw it up pretty high. And so here's the good news, though, real quick, Russ, to that, to this IBC and IBC 101 is that we actually have a course that we've created to give people the foundational framework of IBC. And you can find that in our community as well. We not just have IBC 101, we also have IBC 201, and we're about to launch IBC 301.
Yeah, man, the 301 is pretty cool. This is going to show you how to build your empire. I'm excited to roll that out. So be watching out for that if you haven't seen that already. All right, Stallion, I'm coming to you. What do I need to put in my starter kit in order to make sure that I get to financial freedom fast?
I'm going to go ahead and give the big promise here. My tool that I'm sharing is rad. I'm just going to tell you right now, it's hard to beat. The investor DNA. Okay, if you don't know what we're talking about, you need to figure it out, right? The investor DNA is like getting fitted for shoes. Okay, you go into a shoe store and you say, you know what? I'm going on a hike. And if you don't have this person helping you get ready for this hike, it's like they might send you out the door with penny loafers that are 2 sizes too big to go on the hike. How much sense does that make? How successful do you think you're going to be going on the hike with penny loafers? That's just not rad. I'm just going to go and tell you, it's going to put you behind. I'm going to give you an example. When you know your investor DNA, that's your profile. It's an assessment that you can take, which, by the way, I'll share with you how you can get it in a minute. You get that assessment. It tells you what sort of investor you are and what the top 10 passive income ideas in a matrix, how they match up or not with your unique profile, how God has created you to see the world. And I'm going to tell you, Russ, I'm going to share your story on this because you've shared it before. One of the very first things you invested in was what?
A single family property down in my college town.
Yeah, it was a condo, and you bought it because you thought it was going to be this great, cool thing you could flip. Like, that's your DNA, right? Your investor DNA is, I want to go fast. I want to do something cool. I want to be kind of in the know, behind the scenes. Like, oh man, I got this great deal. And what happened? It fell flat on its face because it was right in 2008. The market tanked, and you're stuck with a long-term rental.
Right.
Which, by the way, on your investor DNA, long-term rental might as well be in the tank. Like, there's nothing about that excites you.
Dude, a long-term rental for me is so mid.
I mean, ridiculous, right? And so what happened? For years, you held on to this ankle weight, right? And you're like, this is the worst. Why would anybody do more of this? And you didn't invest. And what did it do? It put you a decade behind where you could have been had you been investing in line with your investor DNA. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you, if you haven't already got this profile, you got to get it. And there's two ways you can do it. You can go pay retail, right? Go into our community and buy it. I think it's like $200. You get the access to the matrix with it and everything. Or you can actually meet with one of our coaches. If you go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/free call, you can buy one of our accelerator packs that may actually include the investor DNA and be able to have them help you walk through that same profile as it relates to the things you want to invest in. But you got to have it. Don't go hiking with penny loafers that are too big.
Bruh, that's speaking my language right there. Speaking my language. All right, here's my tool. I think that, that you guys were spot on. Like, you can't head out on your financial freedom journey without having your automated budget set up, without being adequately stacked in cash, utilizing an IOUC system. And you definitely can't go out and start investing without understanding who you are as an investor. Totally agree. Then what? You have to understand what your right next thing is. Here's we built this out, and it was probably one of the most ingenious things that we did because it was the starter guide for the starter, right? It was to say, no matter where you're starting on the path, you know where to start next, what your right next thing is, because not every one of you listening to this are in the same spot. It's not like you're starting from scratch, every one of you. Some of you have been on this investing journey for a long time, Eric Cussin, right? You got a lot of wisdom, got a lot of things you're doing right. And you need to know, but what's the right next thing for me, right? And JD, you too, man. Like, you came from a wealth of financial knowledge, being in the financial advisory space for so many years. You weren't starting from scratch, but you needed to know what the right next thing for you. We got back from Nashville, Tennessee, and I was having a conversation with actually one of our presenters. And they were telling me, they said, the thing that blew me away at this event, this person made seven figures for a long time and had stacked a lot of cash, had bought a bunch of real estate. But one of the things they told me, they said, the right next thing grid, that whole process, the fact that I can look and see where I am on that grid and know what the right next thing is for me, so that I don't get really shiny object syndrome and start looking at all these different ideas. I know I can get laser focused on the right next thing. I think that that's so important for us to become financially successful, is that we need to know what the right next thing is. That's the whole purpose of the starter guide.
If you've listened to our show for any length of time, you've heard us talk about infinite banking and how we are able to use that concept to create over $50,000 a month in passive income. But it's just not that easy to figure out, how does this all connect into my own personal system?
Stallion, that's why we created the passive income operating system, bro. It shows you how to turn active income into passive income. It makes all the steps come together. If you would like to get access to it as a podcast listener, we've never given this away in public before, go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/PIOS. There was nothing worse than walking into class when you're in school and the teacher saying, pop quiz day. Why? Because you were unprepared. Are you unprepared though for financial freedom?
Don't be. Find out how close you are by taking our 30-second quiz at wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/quiz.
Let's move on. So we've given you a starter kit, and there's no way in 30 to 40 minutes we're going to be able to give you everything, right? To Joey's point, I would point you to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/free call. Ask a question of the coach is what's the thing is that you need to be working on, and every idea, every tool, every resource that the four of us have talked about is available actually in one of those accelerators, and they can tell you all about it. So let's talk about tactics. Let's talk about ways that people are getting and taking action to becoming financially free. JD, I'll let you go first.
I love partnerships. There's an expression in a lot of different business realms in real estate called a JV, which stands for joint venture. And I think so many people think that they have to do everything in order to get going, and the reality is that they don't. And not only can you not have to do everything, but you can also invest passively in deals or in people. And for as many times as I have sat down with people, I've realized there's basically two types of people: folks that have a lot of money with no time, or a lot of time with no money, right? Or more time rather than they do money, or more money than they do time. And what I realized is that for me, I was sitting across from folks that had access to a lot of really good opportunities that I was constantly being bombarded with that I wanted to get into. And one of them was flipping houses. I wanted to get into real estate, Russ, like you, right? And I was like, I want to do this, but I don't have the time to actually go and operate the real estate myself. Like, I need somebody else to help me. And so this individual was like, well, I need access to capital. And I said, well, I can help with that, right? I knew that there was some value that I could help and add value with. And so I raised money from some friends that allowed us to go do some real estate flips. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to do it. And so what I was then able to do is figure out that I could bridge the gap between deals and opportunity and access to cash. And I found a way to start doing JV deals with people, which allowed me to get out of the way and start taking action a lot faster than I would have ordinarily been able to do, because I would have had to, if I was going to flip houses, find the deals, underwrite the deals, raise the cap. Like, I would have had to do all of it. But realizing that I could partner with other people, right, that gave me the ability to do a lot less than I would have ordinarily have had to do if I were going to do it all on my own.
Right. Did IBC help you? I know that you said it was one of the things in your tool belt that everybody needed. How did IBC help you in doing JVs?
Yeah. So one, it helped from the perspective of when you start getting into flipping houses, there's a couple of things. One, you got to get hard money loans. So there's interest involved in that, right? So you got to pay interest. There's also the renovation expenses, right? And sometimes renovations become more expensive than what you anticipate. And so having access to cash gave us the ability to bridge the gap again between some of those things where we thought it was maybe going to cost $50,000 and ended up costing $80,000, right, on the renovation. So we weren't having to constantly have to go back to our private money lenders or those types of things, say, hey, we need more money. We had the cash that we could just, or I had the cash rather, right, that we could just put into the deal to be able to make the deal work.
Love it. Stallion, how about you? What's one of the tactics that you see people employing on their way to become financially free?
I think one of the most practical things people can do is a side hustle. And what I mean by that is a lot of people have started land flipping businesses themselves. Now, those are not immediately passive, right? They take time. In fact, you got to go through the flight school. You don't understand what we're talking about. Go to the landgeek.com. That's their business model, is they buy and sell raw land and create note income by owner financing those properties to retail buyers. Okay. That's the short and sweet of it. But guys like Sid Christensen and Adam, these guys have worked on the 5 to 9 hours, right? After hours or before they go to work, the weekends. They did this for a season, right? It may have taken them 18 months. It may have taken them 24 months where they had to give up that free time and start this side hustle. But once they did that, what did it do? It bought back the 40 or 50 or 60 hours a week they were spending in their regular jobs, because now they've got that passive or that income that they created taking over their active income and they could quit their job. Now, the reason why these guys are successful at this, it goes right back to the same thing we talked about, that RAD tool we were talking about, the investor DNA. You gotta know if it aligns with you. And these guys are aligned with land flipping because they love running a business. They love managing the processes within that business. They are good at overseeing staff, right? You got to eventually have virtual assistants and others involved in order for it to become passive. And so knowing their investor DNA helped them to figure out how to create that side hustle and then get to a point where they could quit their jobs.
No, that's so true. You have to understand who you are, right, in order to know where you're going. And JD, I agree with you that partnerships build championships. That's why JVs are so important. So love that. How about you, Eric? Where are you seeing people? Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I just think Jelly got all the riz right now. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend.
Eric, tell us where people are you seeing taking action on their path to become financially free?
What I think is rad is mailbox money. I just think that's probably the most rad thing out there. And so a lot of what I'm seeing our clients do, and a lot of what us coaches do, are syndications. And syndications are an amazing way to invest in opportunities that you don't have to do very much of anything once you've done the hard work to identify the operator and find the syndication that matches your investor DNA or your buy box. And so, but it's important to remember this, Russ. Everybody, all the coaches here have had children, and gosh, you got to crawl before you can walk, and you got to walk before you can run. So it's critical to crawl, to get your automated budget in place, find out where your free capital is, then walk, get that money into an IBC system so you got dollars doing more than one thing at a time, and then get that money out of the IBC system and get it invested so that you can get to your financial freedom number sooner rather than later. Let's get to running.
Oh man, this is so good. I love that the four of us have never been hipper or less hip in our life. Our kids, this is for the kids right here. Bet. All right, let's talk about.
You're doing too much, bruh.
I am. I'm seeing that one of the latest things, that tactics I'm seeing. So you mentioned Stallion side hustle, right?
Yeah.
JD, you talked about how does someone build partnerships, JV deals. Eric, you're talking about doing passive investing, syndications. I see people building businesses. I think maybe that's because that's my investor DNA, right? Like I love to influence the outcome of things, and the businesses can be different, right? Right now, my daughters and I are looking at buying a business online through an e-commerce world, and it can be run digitally. But I also think businesses can be investments where you can see, like we've had Toby Kimura, Jeff Wagner come on the show, and they've talked about building like an empire of rental properties, right? Like they're running a rental company, a rental business when they have 50 to 70 rental properties. That's an amazing business. And, you know, we've had Justin Harris on our show before, and he was talking about ways that you can buy brick and mortar business, going through his website or the site that he works with, Website Closers. And there's all these different opportunities that we can actually buy a business and then build on top of it. So no matter how you're aligned, you have to figure out your investor DNA and your resources to make sure that you're running after the right path. There's a lot of different options, a lot of different tactics. Okay, gentlemen, as we come to point number 3, I want to talk a little bit about how do we engage the motor. This is the redneck motor. You've probably heard us talk about this before, that there's 5 elements that are needed. Not all of them are needed, but they have different aspects of the 5 elements of a motor: the money, the opportunity, the time, the experience, and the relationship. And all of those can create acceleration, right? So we got to engage the motor. So I'm going to start with you, JD. Tell me, in your opinion, what's the one part of the motor that you've seen help you and those around you get going faster?
I'm going to say relationships. Relationships are so crucial. And I can't understate this enough that what little success or, any success that I've had has solely been due to the relationships and the people that I've been able to be around and connect with. And so I think what often gets missed when we think about relationships is that people generally don't think big enough and long-term enough. They think only of the here and now. And there's this guy from Alabama, he's a big Auburn fan, that has said multiple times, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And I can't think of anything more true than that statement. And I'll even give you an example, because this leads into what I was talking about before with doing JVs. One of my capital partners when we were flipping houses has now become one of my closest friends. We went from buying and flipping one house to over 200 in just a short period of time, right? So now, because of the vision, right, of thinking long-term and thinking a lot bigger, now we're doing large multi-million-dollar land subdivides, right? And it went from one house to now multiple 8-figure large land subdivides and building this amazing relationship. And I'll tell you where it's all come from, and is this community, right? What you guys have built at Wealth Without Wall Street, like, I've been in this industry for almost 15 years. In the first 10, 11, 12 years, I had zero financial impact the way that I've had in the last 2 or 3 years that I've been connected with you guys.
Man, love that. Love that. Joey, how about for you? What part of the motor have you seen really engage to get that flywheel going faster?
Man, I'm going to go with time here. Time it's critical. If you don't have time, when someone offers up their time to help you, when you can partner with that person that does have time, it is a game changer. And I will tell you, we already talked about how guys like Sid Christensen and Adam Egloff use their own time, their 9-to-5s before you go into work, the weekends, to get to the point of financial freedom faster. But I also want to throw out the idea of maybe you're a college student right now, or maybe you're single and you're just getting started. You don't have as much capital or experience, but you have time. And you have maybe even a specific skill or a way that you can add value to somebody who has deals, opportunities, experience, and capital. They just need extra hands. And I'll be honest, the most successful people that you meet, time is the thing that they don't have. And they would love to have people help them out. And so I just want to throw that out there, man. With time, you can make a huge impact on your own education that will lead to more time freedom in the future.
Love that. So we hit the R and the T in the motor acronym. What about you, Eric?
Yeah, I'm gonna start with the first letter of the Bedneck motor, and that's M. That's money. That's capitalizing deals. And for some of you out there, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're a professional. Maybe you have that excess capital, but maybe it's sitting in lazy cash. For others of you, when you hear me say money, that's when you take your step back. You're like, well, that's the piece I don't have at all. But one of the friends of our company, Sharon Srivatsa, amazing guy, his early mentor gave him this piece of advice. Always assume that money is no object. So if you get creative, there's always ways to find the capital. Lazy cash may be part of what you have, just cash in a bank account. Once you do that automated budget, you may find budget excess that you can apply towards getting your financial freedom goals started. Qualified account. I know I was supposed to give a warning so that the children could have their ears covered. I'm sorry about that. I want to say it again, parents. Qualified accounts. If those things aren't getting you closer to financial freedom, is it really something we want to be investing in? Maybe a HELOC is right for you. I don't know. Or your cash value in your life insurance. Or how about this? Maybe you're the one in your family that has a bend towards entrepreneurialism or entrepreneurship, and other members of your family have capital. Have you checked out TribeVest as a way you can invest with your family and friends and get family and friends' dollars working for you? I'm trying to tell you and preach to you, there's always ways to find the capital. And once you can get that capital piece, you're well on your way to financial freedom, pointing in the right direction.
Man, you guys rock. I love you guys. You guys are crushing it today. Thank you. So here's I'm gonna wrap this up. So we talked about the redneck motor, the 5 elements to doing a deal. Eric, you hit on the M, the money. Well, I'm gonna touch briefly on the O and the E, right? Because Joey, you talked about time, and JD, you talked about the relationships. And I think whenever my investor DNA immediately thinks, how do I create influence? How do I get involved? I love the experience, right? I love trying to bring some level of experience, whether I have it or not. Joey and I were on a call. We're an investor in a small investor in an e-commerce brand, and we're talking with our operator, and he's just sharing with us some of the, we hit some all-time highs in monthly sales recently, and he's saying, hey, I'm just looking for ways to scale even further. And the brand is in the clothing world, right? Like he actually, it's a company where we sell candles, but we also sell detergents. And we have a friend of the show who's in the bedding world and sells a lot of bedding products there on Amazon. And I'm like, man, my experience tells me we should go talk to him and see if we can't find an affiliate offer, or maybe we could offer like a free product to every one of his customers who buy a set of sheets from him. And then they get a discount code that they could use to buy the next one, right? And it's a free offer for them. He gets an opportunity to become affiliate of our company. And then we get in front of thousands of customers every single week who wouldn't have known us, didn't know us before. And I just realized the experience that we can bring into businesses can have major influence on the outcome. We might be able to create the opportunity just by understanding how those deals work. And so you may not have all of those elements of the motor, but you may have 1 or 2 of them. And I encourage you, as you going through and you're building out your starter guide, that know that each one of these ideas, each one of these strategies can help you get on your way. So gentlemen, I know we got to wrap up here. JD, what would you tell someone to do right now based upon all the things that you've shared so far?
Join a mastermind. Hands down. If you want to get in the room with people that are doing deals, that have the knowledge, that have the experience, that have the access to cash, like if you want to be able to go, you got to get around a room of people that are already doing it and that are 2 or 3 or 4 steps ahead of you. Join a mastermind. The money is worth its weight in gold.
I love that. How about you, Eric? What's one thing you tell somebody to do right now?
Go to a live event. If we post that we're going to have a live event, go to that live event. It's transformational. If I'm going to make up a new word, transformationalism happens at live events. So,
how about you, Joey?
That word is so rad, Eric. I appreciate you doing that. I'm gonna go ahead and say, if you haven't taken it, again, call to action. Take the investor DNA assessment. Figure out who you are as an investor. This is not something they teach in school, right? You didn't grow up knowing what sort of investor you are. And so chances are you've invested in things that weren't right for you and you didn't even realize it until just something wasn't quite right. All right. So go check in with one of these coaches. Go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/free call, and they'll make sure that you get the right accelerator bundle that includes this investor DNA profile.
I was going to tell you one more tool, one more idea of things that you could do, but I put myself in your seat right now. Literally, you're driving down the road and you're a little bit overwhelmed by the number of things that need to be in your financial freedom starter guide. So I'm not going to give you one more thing. You know what I'm going to tell you to do? Replay this episode. Listen to it again, because there were so many little nuggets in here. And yeah, we were sitting here making fun of seeing how many times we could say new and old words, Joey. But There are so many little nuggets in here that I don't want you to miss them. So go back and listen to this episode again. And you probably need to listen to it a third time. Yes, I'm trying to boost our podcast downloads, but I'm thinking about you here. And then I'm going to give you one last thing to do. Share it with someone. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Share it with someone who needs to start on this journey with you. Because the whole each one teach one concept applies where the teacher always learns more than the student. So as soon as you can get one of these ideas down, you start having some success in it, start sharing it with a friend, a family member. Because now as you start to explain it, you start to teach it, it will become more visceral in the way that you understand it, and you will have a path that will get much shorter. You will watch how time starts collapsing because now you are doing the thing that you've been learning. As always, we appreciate you listening to the show. Have an amazing day.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.